Thank you for joining us. If you're online, if you're here in the room, thank you also for coming and joining us. Today I would like to talk about some factors that I think you should consider and begin to talk about with your children as you begin to research colleges and universities. And then towards the end of the presentation, I'll be showing you a web-based platform called Scialfo, and that's the platform that I use to connect with students and parents, and we organize the college applications process on that web page, Scialfo. And so we'll get to that in a little bit. So let me pull up these slides and we'll begin. Well, one of the first things I ask students when we're talking about colleges and universities is where? Where would they like to go? I've had students who they come here to Taiwan, and they're from America or from Canada, but they're actually considering multiple countries as they're applying. I have seniors right now that are applying to schools in Japan and the UK and the United States and Australia. That's one student is considering like 4 different countries for the universities that they're applying to. So we're not just limited, just because we're an American school, we're not just limited to American universities. And that's another reason why I really like the new system, Scialfo, because there are over 40 different countries and universities represented in the Scialfo system. And so that is one thing that you want to consider, though, when you're thinking about universities. Which country would you like your child to go to? And that is also going to determine how you're searching and researching colleges and universities. What are the different admissions requirements? Applying to the US, or applying to Canada, or applying to Australia, applying to the UK, applying to Japan. Those are all very different systems. And so, I want to make sure that I'm talking to the student and the parents, and I understand what is needed for that student to apply to that school. Yeah, so, which country? Is there a particular region or a state that you're interested in going to? Is there a specific city? Do you already know a specific university? For example, my daughter is now going to a university. It's called Asbury. I went there, my wife went there, her grandparents went there, and her great-grandparents worked there and taught there. And so there's a family heritage. We call that a heritage school. There's a lot of family history in attending that school. So that may be a great factor for that family. May not require them to go there, but we strongly suggested Asbury. We'd like Asbury to be one of the schools that our daughter considered. And when she had her admission decisions, we said, no pressure. Where do you want to go? She chose Asbury. So there may be a specific university that you would like your child to attend because you went there, or there's history there, or maybe it's just because it's a popular school. Now, just because a school is very popular and highly ranked doesn't necessarily mean that's the best school for your child, but it is something to consider. There are dream schools. I tell kids you need to have like dream schools on your list. You need to have some good, what we call target schools, your GPA and your interests. You have a good chance of getting into that school. That's a target school. And then I also encourage them to add schools to their list that are what we call safety schools. It's a school that they're willing to go to. If it comes to that, if they're accepted, they may end up going to that school, but it's not their top school. It's not their dream school. But to have some schools that have the majors and the environment that they would like, and they would be willing to go there, the admission requirements may be a little lower. It's easier to get into those schools. And so we have a range of admissions requirements for those schools. Also, it's a good thing to consider when you're considering the where. And it may be good to consider networking. And what I mean by that is maybe you have friends or family that already live in that area or that region. And so as you're here and your child is on the other side of the planet going to university, you know that there are people there, maybe even family there, that are close, that you can network with and they can support your child while they're there. Yeah, for example, my daughter chose a school that's kind of in between my mother, who lives in Ohio, and my wife's parents, who live a little bit further south. And so Katrina's kind of in the middle. It's just a few hours drive for anyone to come and support her or help her or pick her up, or, if need be. And so that helps us, feel comfortable that there's someone there. We're networked with people that are there. We have former classmates that are there in the area. And so, they told us, if you need anything, just call us. And we're there. So networking can be an important factor to consider when you're looking at universities. Also, you want to consider what types of universities are you looking at? There are private versus public schools. Are you looking for religious schools or secular schools? One of my seniors, as I was talking to the student said, I wish I could find a university that was like MAT. I said, well, then you should probably consider Christian schools. Now, those are typically private, and tuition can be a factor as well. Public schools may be cheaper than private or religious schools. But that's something to consider. Would I feel more comfortable if my child was at a religious college or university? And then there are also other schools. There are technical training schools, community colleges that sometimes give two-year degrees and even four-year degrees. And then there are also schools, just training schools, that give certificates or associate degrees and or bachelor's degrees. And so it really depends on what is your goal. What is the goal of the student in their education and in their training? Are they comfortable with just a bachelor's degree, and that's where they can stop their education and have a good job? Or do they know they probably need to go on to a master's degree, because that's what that career typically requires or expects. It's your opportunities for salary and growth and that kind of thing within that career. It probably requires a master's degree, and then obviously there's the doctoral studies beyond that in particular fields. The next thing we want to consider in colleges and universities is obviously the admissions criteria. I encourage students to be researching early. I want students to understand the admissions requirements for the colleges so that is actually guiding their course selection in high school. I don't want a senior to get to their senior year and begin college applications and then they go, oh no, this university requires a class I don't have. That's not a good situation. Now, there are other options at that point, but not having that right class could limit them to applying to that school. If that school is very rigid on that requirement, you need this in high school to apply. So understanding college admissions, that guides high school course selection in especially 11th and 12th grade as they're able to choose more classes and they're preparing for university. Okay. And so really the best source for these is the university websites themselves. There are all kinds of search engines and websites that compile information. SciAlfo also does that. It compiles a lot of information about universities, but it's not always complete. It's not thorough. The best source of information for the admissions process is obviously on that university's website. And it's also very important to understand that if your child has that passport, then they look at the regular admissions. If that university is in a country that is not their passport, they need to be looking at the international student admission requirements. Sometimes those are different. Those are different. Okay. One of the things one of the things that I also want to remind students is if they're considered international students, sometimes universities will say, well, you need an English test. And so it really depends on the country and the university. There are many American universities, they'll look at our transcript and they'll see, okay, for all of your high school, or maybe all of your schooling here at Morrison, but they're going to see the transcript for high school. They're going to see, okay, this is an American school. It's an accredited American school. We have 2 U.S. accreditations. One is Christian and one is non-Christian. And so those are recognized throughout the United States. So they can look at that transcript and say, we know that this education was in English and it was at a specific level. They're able to offer AP courses. They're able to give the SAT here. And so that indicates the level of our school. So they may look at the transcript and say, obviously, the student is international, but their entire high school time has been in an American English-speaking environment. So they don't need an English test. But there are some schools, I've seen some Canadian schools that say it doesn't matter if you've been overseas, if you're an international student, you have to have an English test. And I haven't seen many exceptions to that. So really understanding the admissions requirements is very important when it comes to the academics and also like things like English placement for international students. Okay? Okay. Any other questions? I just want to pause here. Any questions for these parts, like regional considerations or school considerations or admissions considerations?
For Morrison, what is the, if Morrison in US, what is the ranking for the high school in US?
Well, we don't have a,
like, is that still like top 20 or top,
well, we really don't have,
like what you mentioned earlier, like is
we really don't have ranking compared to other high schools. When I was talking about ranking, I was talking about university rankings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you compare our system to the American system, then
the system.
again, there are different levels. For example, there's like College Board has different levels that we can achieve, and we're recognized as having specific curriculum. We're able to give AP courses. We're able to give the PSAT test, the SAT test, and so we have to go through a screening process and an application process to be able to do those things. Do you see what I mean? And then as far as curriculum, we're able to offer AP courses, but we're being a small school, we offer what we can, what we think are the most essential, but we don't have like a full AP program. There are over 30 AP courses. Mm-hmm. Right, so we offer what we can, but we don't have a full AP program. So, for example, in the States, a large high school, they would have a full AP program. They would offer almost every AP course there is.
But I think my question is referring to what you mentioned when in internet, because the kids from Morrison will be going to US or to Europe, right, to study.
Yeah.
Because they are in your country. Yeah. They might consider as international. If they, this is how how we define that, and how the university define this Morrison.
Okay.
They will not take the ELL class or whatever, the TOEFL test or something like. How.
Yeah. And again, that comes down to what we call our accreditations. Like I said, there are 2 accreditations. There's one, it's Western Association of Schools and Colleges, and that's based mostly like California, like California area, and so they go into schools and they review their curriculum and their teaching staff, and there's a full program, so it's a full accreditation review, and so every 3 years there are teams of professionals that come from WASC that accredit, and the Christian accreditation board is ACSI, And so they actually work together. They send about half of the representatives are ACSI and about half of the representatives are WASC, and they come as one team and they review all of our curriculum, all of our staff, our facilities. So they see what we're doing well, and then they make recommendations for us. And then that becomes what we call our school improvement plan. And so then they're going to return in 3 years and they're going to say, how have you worked on our recommendations from last time? And so there's a 3-year mid-review, and then every 6 years we have a full review. And so then we get re-accredited and recertified as a WASC school and an ACSI school. Okay. And so if we are successful in achieving that and maintaining that, then that tells other schools and universities what level our school is functioning at. Okay. So when they give accreditation, they can either give you a 1-year accreditation, a 3-year accreditation, or a 6-year accreditation. And so we're at the point now where we are continually renewing 6-year accreditations. Okay. Yeah. Also, I mentioned before, we have our school profile, and what that is when I apply or when I send documents to universities for applicants, I send a school profile, which is a 2-sided document, and it has a full explanation of our school, our curriculum, and then I also put data from our students' test scores and our AP scores, things like that. And then I also give a list at the bottom of page 2. That's universities that are students in the past, universities where they have been accepted. And so that also goes to universities when students apply. Maybe they've never heard of Morrison, or maybe they've only heard of Morrison Taichung because it's been there longer. But how does Morrison Taipei compare? And so we have our own school profile. Yeah. And so they can look at that and they can see, oh, these are the universities where the students have been accepted in the past. Also, something I was going to share with you, this document, this page right here that I have, this is a list of universities where our current seniors have been accepted, and universities where they're waitlisted and or deferred, they're still waiting on those decisions. And this list is not yet complete, but if you wanted to take a look at this, you're free to do so. Again, this is not a finished list, but this is where our students have been accepted so far. And you'll notice in the first column where it says accepted, there are some universities listed there that are bolded. That means our students have committed to going there. They have been accepted and they have committed. So we have 2 students who have been accepted to NYU in the Abu Dhabi campus. That's interesting. And then the New York University, actually in New York City, University of California, Los Angeles, and University of Puget Sound. We have some students that have committed to going there. So I just wanted to share that update with you for our current year, our current seniors. Okay. All right. I do have another copy. If you, yeah. Again, this is just some information, just for reference. That these are universities where our current seniors have been accepted, or some are still waitlisted. They're waiting on decisions, and this list is not yet finished. We actually have some students. Their admission process can continue even into the summer months. Some of the Japanese schools, Australian schools, and British schools. Even Korean schools, their application process is even after graduation. And so I continue to support them and work through the summer until those applications are done as well. Okay. All right. Well, moving on. One thing I also encourage students to be considering is, what do they want to major in? What are they interested in? Now, this is not something that they necessarily have to commit to. There are some universities that will allow them to be accepted and start their freshman year and not declare a major. That's okay. But there are some universities, highly selective universities, and certain programs within those universities, they want students to declare their major at the time of application. They are admitted into a particular major or a program. And so some universities say yes, they want them to declare a major. Others, it's a little more flexible. But the first question I ask students is, you need to know your major or what you're interested in studying, because you don't want to go to a university and then they really don't have the particular program or major that you want. Now, most large schools are probably going to have a range of majors that cover most students. But does the school have a program that's reputable? What is the reputation of that major at that school? Can I be accepted without declaring a major? I just mentioned that some universities will. At some universities, they will even track employment of their graduates, and so that data, you can ask the university for that. It may be published on their website. When these students graduate from these majors, how many of them are actually successful in entering the job market and getting jobs? And also, particularly the U.S. Labor Department, reports at this website here. They actually talk about employment trends. What jobs and careers are low in labor or workforce at several different levels of work, whether it's manual labor or office work or higher education, things like that. And so that's something to research too. It's like, what's the job market going to look like when I graduate in a particular career and a major? And another thing to think about is campus. Where's the campus location? For example, the NYU New York campus is actually a lot of small buildings spread out across quite a large area in the New York City area. As you walk past most of these buildings, you don't think, well, I'm on a college campus. You're in the city. And so there are some campuses that are very urban. And then there are some schools that are, they're very, very secluded. Again, referencing my university where I went and where my daughter is right now, well, we joke, when school is in session, the population of the town doubles. And then when the students go home, there's just a few people left. That's a very, very small town. But within 15, 20 minutes of driving, there's shopping and there's restaurants. There's large city there in the state. So if they network with their friends and get rides and things like that, they can go shopping and do whatever they need to do. Also transportation is also another consideration when you're looking at campuses. The United States does not have the mass transportation systems like we're used to here in Taiwan and other countries. Another thing to consider is the age of the school and the facilities. Do they have fairly modern facilities? Are they a growing campus? Have they had any new and recent building projects? Are they able to expand? Are they advancing and renewing their campus, or is it just all really old? Now, there's nothing wrong with old if the quality of the education is still there. Student demographics. What's the percentage of international students and student applicants that they accept each year? That's something that you need to consider. Now, I know here in Taiwan it's very popular. The UC schools are very popular, but if you look at their admissions data and the admissions requirements, the international students are grouped into the out of state, and international students are in just one category. And that is about 18 to 20% of their admissions, total admissions. And then international are just a small percentage of that. And so, you know, we need to look at the student demographics. How many international students are they able to accept, and how many do they accept each year into their freshman class? And what's the student enrollment? When I was at university, I had about 500 students in my freshman class. Whereas if you go to like Ohio State, you're looking at, you know, tens of thousands of students in the freshman class. And so, you know, that's a factor. What is the student to professor ratio? I tell students when at my small university, and the one where my daughter is, the teacher to student ratio in the larger classes, gen ed classes, is similar to our school. It's about 1 to 25, 1 to 30. Whereas if you go to larger universities, some of your gen ed classes, like the required English class or psychology, things like that, you're going to be in a lecture hall of several hundred students. Okay? And so that's just something to consider. It's not that one is better than the other. Teacher to student ratio, I think the lower the number, the better it is, of course. But some students would be able to be successful in either one of those situations. But some students, they may need more one-on-one attention, or the ability to be able to approach professors more easily, and that's going to happen in a smaller student population, right? You know, sports and extracurricular activities is also something that you may want to consider. I have one of our students, our seniors right now, is very athletic. He's very successful in track and field. He's actually gone to the States during summers and competed and got some awards, and so that's helping him with some of his admissions now. And so he's looking at schools that can offer him sports opportunities, because that's a priority for him. And another thing is support systems. How much resources does that university have to support students who might be struggling with transition issues, or they're international and they're away from home? Does that school have support systems in place to help those students when they're struggling? Or in some universities, the larger the university, the more support they're actually going to have for students who have like IEPs, like individual education plans. Maybe they're smart, but maybe they do struggle in some areas of their education. There are some universities that they will say, we're able to accept and support this student, even if they have some academic needs. Yeah. And then another one is costs, considering costs. I know that, as I say here at the bottom, I understand the discussion of finances is a very personal matter. But I do encourage you to begin, talking, as a family, and how family finances may affect college selection. For some families, the cost is not an issue, but for others, it may be. For my wife and I, as soon as we found out we were having our children, as soon as they were born, we began the college funds, college investment funds that are separate from our retirement funds, and those over time grew until we could see how much will we have for college and education. And so we were talking to our daughter. We don't want to put too much pressure, but academics and scholarships are very important, because the combination of scholarship and the money we have, this will determine where you can go and what we can afford. And so we our family, we were very honest about our financial situation and how that would affect where our child could apply. So citizenship and international, those tuitions are going to be different, whether, for example, in the States, whether you are a state resident, a U.S. resident, a state resident, or out of state and international, those are all going to have different tuition fees attached to them. And so Also, researching colleges, like how much scholarship and financial aid do they offer to their freshmen? That's information that many universities publish as well. Each of their freshmen, they're able to allot a certain amount of money in financial aid and support. And so that's something to research also when you're looking at universities. Okay. Big Future is a feature of the College Board, and so I encourage all high school students to begin. They should have a College Board account, and they need to be able to log into that and check that, check to make sure they have access to that regularly. It also comes into play when they're wanting to take SAT tests. They register through their College Board account on the College Board page. And then even APs, like if they take an AP course with us or AP online, there are still some steps that the student needs to do on their College Board account to fully register for the AP exams. And also, they have features here where they can begin to do career and majors research, and also college and university research, right on the College Board website. Yeah, so there's college search, there's major and career search on College Board, and the actual college search functions, where you can filter through, and looking at like some of the factors that we just talked about. What are test scores and admissions requirements, the type of school, location, similar criteria that you can use to filter and search for schools. And as promised, this is just one slide of the SciAlfo program. Again, for those of you who just came in, SciAlfo it's a web-based program that I use and Morrison uses. And what this does is this helps us organize the application process, the college application process. And so once I put students into this program, they should also be adding parents as contacts. And as soon as that is done, I activate permission for parents to then create a username and a password, and they also have access to SciAlfo. So students and parents can go on to SciAlfo, research universities, and begin to make a university list. These are the schools that my child is interested in applying to. And then I can see that list, and I can talk to the parents and the student about that. Yes.
When's a student be added to this SciAlfo?
Okay.
10th grade, 11th grade?
What I've done in the past is it was just 12th grade when we were first using the program. When we were first using the program, it's just 12th grade as they're starting 12th grade, so they can apply for college. And then last year, what I did is I started them in 11th grade and 12th grade. Starting next year, we have permission to have all high school. So starting next year, all high school grade levels will have SciAlfo accounts. And so if your child is going to be in 9th and 10th grade, you haven't heard of SciAlfo yet, that's okay. More information and emails to come.
So you mean they can register now, like for the 10th grade, like our kids?
At the beginning of next year, August, yes, at the beginning of August, yeah, then I have permission to put all high school into SciAlfo. Right now, our 11th graders are in there and our 12th graders are in there.
So the other question I have is, earlier you said that parents can see, is that will be the same account or different accounts as parents?
Because
Parents
I put the students in, and so and then they begin to fill out what they call a profile page.
Okay.
And so on that profile page, it asks for contacts, and that's where I tell the student, your parents' names and emails go there. And then I activate your access to it. So when I do that, you will receive an email that says, "Hi, parent, your student is in this program, and you can now create a username and a password to get into that." So whatever your child does and sees on that page, your access is exactly the same.
Oh, okay.
I, as the administrator, have a little more access and control, like in the background, of course. But whatever your child sees, whatever your child can do on SciAlpha, you will be able to do as well. So yeah, one of our goals in using this is that we want to eliminate the mystery of what's happening with the application process. I encourage parents and students to be using this together to research and create the lists of universities where they want to apply, and then I also have access to that. Yeah. Okay. What I'd like to do now is I'll actually switch now tabs, and I've gotten my daughter's permission. Like when she was applying, she used this, so I have her permission to use her profile, and I've gotten rid of some of the personal information, of course. But yeah, just give me a second. Let me switch. Okay. So when I go in, then I see, so there's Katrina at the top. And so there's a profile page. Let's see if it's going to respond quickly. Yes. Okay. So here's the profile page. This is where the student would put in their personal information, citizenship, residency, things like that. We did have a U.S. address here that we put in. And then a student can answer questions on SciAlpha that kind of tells them, okay, what kind of universities am I looking for? And what criteria am I using as I'm searching for universities? That will help. I do tell students, you can put test scores in here, like your SAT scores, but I remind students, SciAlpha does not send College Board scores to universities. Students have to request those scores from College Board. So, because sometimes students, they put it in here and they think, oh, I'm done. No, this is just it's for reference. It's for reference here. Also grades. There's no reason for a student to waste time putting their grades here, because I simply send the Morrison transcript to the universities. It has all their classes, it has all their grades. So they don't need to do this on SciAlpha. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
So I'm looking, it says SAT, ACT, TOEFL,
Mm-hmm.
Duolingo. Like, why is Duolingo in there?
Again, this is just a place where they can put their scores. Again, there's a variety of tests here.
Okay.
They can even add, like the list. If you click add, the list of possibility, it's a really long list. I don't know why they're all there. And again, this is not a sending function of SciAlpha. It's just for reference, really. Yeah. Down here you see, contacts. So my wife is in there because I'm the high school counselor, so it had to be my wife, right? And for counselor, we actually had to have, just for transparency, I obviously can't write my own daughter's and my own son's recommendations and things like that. So it had to be someone else besides me, and so that's how we had to work that, since I'm the high school counselor. Now, one section that I do want students to work on is either for extracurricular activities. I want them to put it here, or I tell them you can create a resume document and share that with me. If they give me a resume, or they put their extracurriculars here, that is what I use to write my letter of recommendation for students. my recommendation is a character reference and an extracurricular activity reference for the students. That way teachers, when they write their letters of recommendation, they're able to focus primarily on academics, academic performance in their letters of recommendation. So, you know, a teacher may write anywhere from 5 to 10 letters, it varies, but I write a letter for every senior that is applying.
So a question, what is the extra, like after school program?
Yeah, extracurricular means these are things that they are doing after school or outside of school, not classes.
Right, is it sports included?
So sports would be included here. Some people, they have orchestra on their transcript, but here they may reference things like a community orchestra, something that's not a part of the school, it's outside of school or after school. Yeah, so they can put those things here, and I reference those in my letter of recommendation for them.
Another question.
Yes, ma'am.
For the teacher recommendations, like for our kids is like 10th grade,
Mm-hmm.
do they need to start now to kind of, you know, asking, or maybe wait until?
It's a little too early for that, but for example, right now, about a month ago, I met with the 11th graders, and I did tell them, 11th graders, you can begin to talk to your teachers now about writing letters of recommendation for your senior applications, because that's really only a few months away. And so there are some teachers that actually like that students talk to them earlier, and like me, I begin to draft many of those letters during the summer. Yeah, and so that gives me a lot of time to work on them. One of the things I really tell students, like, do you really want to ask me for a letter of recommendation last minute so that I write your letter last minute? Of course not. You want me to spend time on your letter. And teachers too. You want the teacher to be able to spend time writing a good letter of recommendation for you. So start talking to them earlier. Yeah. So when we come back, when those 11th graders come back and they're in their senior year, I will give them a deadline. And then what I do is I say to them, you have to tell me who your teacher letter writers are by a certain date. And then I put it here in SILFO. This teacher and this teacher will write letters of recommendation for Johnny. And then all the teacher has to do is write the letter and upload that document into SILFO. They don't have to print it out, they don't even have to give it to me. It's there in the system. And so I can show you here. There's an applications page, and so these are universities where my daughter applied. I'm free, comfortable in sharing this. Based on some of those admissions criteria, it actually labels and advises the counselor, hey, this is a target school for this student. This is a reach school or a dream school, and this is a likely. This is a safe. This is a pretty safe school, and so the system will identify. The more information the student puts in about themselves and the universities that they're interested in, the better the system is at identifying these schools. Like, well, this is a reach school for you. You can still apply here, but it's going to be highly competitive. Yeah. Okay. And then this is where I actually then record where the student is accepted or where they were denied. And then there are other categories here if they're ever deferred or waitlisted. There's different categories here. But all that information is tracked here in SILFO. Yeah. And one of the other thing I wanted to show you is, this is what we call, they call it SILFO docs or CDocs. And so here, if they are using SILFO, I also recommend that students use Common App. Okay. Now, I know there's lots of different web pages here, but Common App it's exactly that. It's a common application. The student does one application online, and then they can send that application to up to 20 universities. They do one application, and it goes to 20 schools. That saves that student a lot of time. It does. It saves them a lot of time. And so I tell students, if your university uses the Common App system, you have to put it in Common App. And then it syncs with SciAlpha. And then all I have to do is I go in here, and these are different documents that I can send through SciAlpha. The school profile goes here. All that information about our school. Their letters of recommendation go up here. Their transcript goes into SciAlpha. And so when the student comes to me and says, Mr. Cavish, I finished my application for Ohio State. Then I go into the system and I say, okay, computer system, send all these documents to Ohio State. And it's done electronically. It syncs. It gives me a confirmation message. The university has electronically received all those documents. And then that's confirmed in the system for the student and the family as well. So the process, the whole process is, like I said, it's organized and it's here in one place for me, the counselor, the students, and the parents. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's about all that I had for today in presenting. For those of you who are online and listening, I want to thank you for joining us. I'll now end the live streaming. And for those who are in the room, if you have any further questions, I'll be available to answer those. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact me or Tracy Liu, my assistant in the office. If you need language or translation, Mrs. Liu is more than happy to do that for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.